because it's different from a day job. A day job, I do 8 hours per day something, but at the end of the month, I get a reward. But here you need to stay conscious to understand what I do now might give a reward in 1 or 2 years, or no reward at all. This can also happen. So better you do it straight from the heart instead of fighting or pushing through it.
That is today's guest, Adrian Parzentny, a musician and producer who shares his journey of combining his passion for music with his love of travel. I call this creative passion mashin. He's taking a traditionally location-dependent business on the road. And I think this one's really going to open your mind into what is possible. The idea around baking what you love into your business, into your travels. You're going to get some key lessons for combining your passions and turning them into a location-independent business that you can apply to really anything you might choose to start now or in the near future. How to leverage your business to connect with local cultures, which is something he's been able to do. The valuable skills he learned busking around the world, including his number one ultimate money-making song. It needed to be played at like 1 a.m, just the right time. This provided a lot of money at the right time. It's a pretty funny story. We get a good laugh about it. The importance of embracing limitations and finding those creative solutions and much more packed into this episode. It's all happening right now. So buckle up, strap in, grab your favorite beverage and chill. Thanks for being here and welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams. And now your host, world wanderer and travel junkie, Jason Moore.
Hey, it's Jason here with ZeroToTravel.com. Welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out, letting me bring a little travel into your ears today. This is the show to help you travel the world on your terms, to fill your life with as much travel as you desire, no matter what your situation or experience. Of course, you heard at the top, Adrian is here, a traveling musician for 20 plus years. He's been a mixing engineer and music producer since 2017, working with world-class artists through his business, Hit the Road Music Studios. You can learn more over at hittheroadmusicstudio.com or on Instagram over at Hit the Road Music Studio. He's been living on the road for 13 years and has spent quality time in places like Albania, Georgia, Turkey, Armenia, Greece. Got some incredible stories, and you're going to hear about the amazing side of this passion mashin, combining your travels with your other passions and sort of maybe some of the unsexy sides too. And really, this is a snapshot of how he keeps the balance of work and earning an income and taking on clients, all the things that you kind of need to do to make it sustainable if you're going to work and travel. And I just love stories around somebody who has found a way to combine their passions, and also, in this case, a traditionally location-dependent type of a job or business, as you would often think about a music producer as somebody who needed to have their studio and all of their, guitar pedals and their mixing console and everything. And I know you can do all this on your laptop, but still you feel like, oh, there's core equipment you need. How can somebody travel around and do this? Well, he shares some of that, but really what you're going to hear is a lot of the overarching lessons around the persistence, how much time it takes, how he's been able to do it. And I really think there are a lot of, as we always try to do in each episode, a lot of takeaways for you to consider coming out of this one. Before we get into it, I also want to remind you to stick around on the back end. You're going to hear about the ultimate reason to head off into the unknown, to take a risk, to take a chance, whatever that means to you right now. It's something I pulled out of this interview today. Maybe you'll catch it. You'll have to listen. Plus, we have a free newsletter. I just want to remind you of that. ZeroToTravel.com/newsletter goes out once a week. Yes, it is absolutely free. So sign up over there if you haven't done so to keep in touch. Okay. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Adrian. Please enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side, my friend. Cheers.
Jetzt gucken wir einmal zu.
Adrian Parzentny, welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend. Good to have you here.
Man, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very excited.
Did I nail it? The last name is Polish, you said, right? Did I nail
Yes.
the pronunciation or sort of nail it? I mean,
Yeah, you sort of nailed it, actually. Actually, you made it better than the lady in the office in Poland. So,
okay.
thumbs up, man.
Hey, I mean, if I can do it better than the lady in the office in Poland, I must be doing something right. Anyway, so glad you reached out and so glad to have you here. You grew up in Poland or Germany, or where did you grow up?
I have been born in Poland, but before the wall fall, the Berlin Wall fall, I was like 9 months young. My parents immigrated to Germany. So I grew up in the West. And this is where my funny German accent comes from.
Yeah, okay. What was it like growing up there at that time?
It was interesting. It was a very interesting time. I lived in Germany until I was 22. And since 22, now it's now 13 years since I know my life partner, Kasia, we are traveling or living in Poland or somewhere. So, yeah.
And where's somewhere today?
Actually, Poland.
Oh, really?
After 5 years of traveling, we have a small break in Poland because my life partner is going to the university. So it's my time to support her on this journey.
Okay, yeah. So does it feel like home when you go back there in a way? Or what feels like home nowadays?
Oh, that's a question, man. for the beginning. I feel home wherever I am.
Do you?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I traveled so much. I lived in so many different places, and wherever I am, I meet nice people, do my thing, and it feels great.
Do you think it helps to have of course, we're going to talk about your business, which I find so interesting as somebody who plays music and writes songs, and also just as a traditionally, like what many would perceive a location dependent business, meaning you would think a music studio is something that, lives in a place and you have to have all the equipment and all the stuff. And you have built a whole business around your passion for music and recording and traveling around. Of course, you can check it out, hittheroadmusicstudio.com. When I'm thinking about this, you as a sort of nomadic over the last 13 years and traveling around and doing this, I want to hear some stories and everything. I'm wondering, like, if that sense of home, does it help because you're sort of surrounded by you're kind of working on the same project, you're working with other artists, you have your equipment you travel with. There's like sort of this stable element of the traveling. Is that part of the reason, do you think?
It is one part of the reason, because music for me feels home. And the second reason is, and it's a very easy explanation, because I was born in Poland, but I grew up in Germany. So I got always the question, do we feel Polish? Do we feel German? And I said, none of both. It was like always, I never had the identity with my nationality, because there are upsides and downsides like everywhere when I grew up in Germany. And there are things that I really liked, things I didn't like. And then when I moved to Poland for a while, first time to Krakow, then there were also things that I liked, that I could identify with, things I couldn't identify with. And I understood that I'm just a citizen on the world. So it's not just a slogan, but it came with my experience, because I couldn't say like, when I'm in Germany, I'm the Polish guy. When I'm in Poland, I'm the German guy. So I said, let me just be a guy.
I love that. Well, that is one of the gifts of travel, right? I hadn't thought about it in the way you just kind of articulated it. The sort of the catchphrase, let's call it, of being a citizen of the world, and that idea versus the actual sort of ownership of that through travel, and just kind of becoming like, oh wait, actually, no, this is actually part of, I understand this now. I'm like taking this in as a part of me.
Exactly. And it came with our first travels, and we didn't have a YouTube channel or anything. We just traveled 17 countries in like 2 years. And I had repeating conversations. Like we traveled the Balkans and then up through Turkey and then Georgia and Armenia and back. And we had repetitive conversations. I saw in every country, people were super friendly, people were open, everybody wanted to have a good time, and you're in one country and they say, here everything is good, but don't go to this other one. Then you go to the other country and then, here everything is good, but don't go to this one. And I saw this repetitive phrase until I really understood we all just want to have a good time, no matter what country we are. And this also helped a lot to understand that we are really humans that want to connect.
It is very easy. I mean, you can like the parallel, or let's say something I grew up with that relates to that is, I lived in Pennsylvania in the United States, and the next state over was New Jersey. And if a driver had New Jersey license plate and they did something, to cut you off or whatever, something that messed up on the road, you'd shake your fist and be like, those damn Jersey drivers, like it's always like as if they're different from you because they're one state over. It's easy to kind of do that. I feel like there's always, whether it's a sibling rivalry or much more serious than that, there's always going to be some kind of rivalry, I feel, between countries that border each other, maybe in some ways. I don't know. Definitely.
And then, I was the guy in the middle. I'm like, I've been to this country. The people were exactly the same kind. They had exactly the same kindness like you, and so it also by experience.
Yeah. Well, when you first took off, were you doing the business right away, or was it just like, hey, pure travel, we saved up money, this is what I want to do, and you and your life partner, what was her name again? I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry. Her name is Kasia, exactly.
Kasia, yeah. You and Kasia just decided mutually to, I don't know if you were together at that time. You just decided to kind of take off with no agenda. Was that the thing?
Exactly that. Exactly this dream. We were 22. We moved to Berlin. I was a street musician at this time, so I was busking. And then it was like, hey, do you like to go to spend Christmas by my parents? Or do you want to spend Christmas by your parents? Or we go into this small car and drive to Istanbul. So we just head down the road, no map, no smartphones at this time, and just blindly drove. It was so exciting. And this was the foundation, the stepping stone to travel more, to discover more, to see more.
Were you operating on a limited budget at the time?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, at this time, I saved a little bit of money from the busking, though we earned pretty well. I think it was one of the best jobs I had.
Really?
And yeah, it was really good when you do it right. We worked also because I was playing with an incredible vocalist from Algeria, with Idris, and we lived together. So we made like 6 hours rehearsal in the morning and see what we can put into the set, what can we change, And then we play 5 to 6 hours. And I will not lie here, I'm going to share one small trick. Like Wonderwall, of course, we don't want to play all the time Wonderwall, but it's Saturday night, you're in Berlin, people go to the Matrix Club, you hear the British accent, it's 3 a.m., you see like 40 people coming, and like, dude, Wonderwall now.
It's Wonderwall time.
It's Wonderwall time. And it paid the rent, man.
Yeah. Like what would be the haul in a moment like that? Like 300 euros or something? Or like what would be?
Usually when there was a tourist group with 19-year-old who traveled for the first time, it might be even $100 to $200 if you play this one song in the right moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, is that where you got a lot of your musical chops? Like, there's always a famous, I don't know if you've heard about the 10,000 hour rule. I think it was Malcolm Gladwell that made that famous. Anyway, the story they always tell is the Beatles when they were playing, I think in Germany for. I'm butchering this story. I forget how long, but they would play like multiple, like 10 hours a day or some ridiculous amount.
Yeah,
and then they would just do that for like months straight or something. But the point is that's where they like really learned to play together because it was just so many hours of just working on your craft. Was that busking moment in time? Was that you? Was that your version of that, I guess?
Definitely. Yeah. It was one of the parts because I started to play in two bands, like two punk bands, when I was 11, 12 at this age. So we started to write songs, to cover songs. Later I moved to the rehearsal room. So I was living there, no window, 3 amps. I had enough time to dial in the right sound for 3 hours and, play with other people and things like this, like to perfect the craft. So I went to work and then in the evening, I went back to the rehearsal room, playing, jamming, and I'm doing it my whole life. I'm now a musician for 24 years. It's a blessing. I'm very grateful for this. And these travels were always connected at the beginning with music. So when we went to Serbia, I was hanging out with the local musicians, learning a couple of tunes. And this production studio, it happened around 7 years ago. So it was almost like a new part in my life to switch from musician to producer, because it allowed me to work with different genres, not only rock or punk rock or metal, but it opened me a world to, because I'm very curious about music. Every song has something to tell. If it's a EDM track, if it's a pop track, if it's a punk track, metal track, whatever track, there is a core message. So this keeps the curiosity alive.
It's endlessly fascinating, isn't it? Like I'm the same way. I think it's so nice when you, I mean, and anybody listening to this, they have, whether it's music or something else, probably have your version of that, where it's just like something that's just so endlessly, you're just endlessly curious about it. Like there can never be, you can't finish it. You know, it's just like, it's just like the more you find, the more it opens up for you in a way. And the more you realize you don't know in some ways, you know.
So well formulated. Absolutely. Yeah. It goes on forever. Creativity has really no end. There is no time in our life to say, okay, that's it. Creativity has been done. I mean, Chuck Berry, he passed away with 93 when he recorded his next album.
When I think about the human spirit, human creativity, and I think about music and the limited amount of notes that are available in the grand scheme of things, and what people have done with these notes and how differently they interpret music and play music and create music, it's just unbelievable. Like if you need like a real world example of how creative humans are, just take a look at music. That's how I feel about it. It's inspiring. It inspires me, the creativity of other musicians, bands. And I went to a concert the other night, and it was just, it almost didn't matter what song they were playing, even though there were certain songs I wanted to hear. But it was like just watching them, masters of their craft, do their thing and do it so incredibly well. It's awe-inspiring, really. It's so inspiring. Those first 7 years, you were just busking the whole time? Is that how you were supporting your travels? Or
no, I was also working as a roadie, like a stagehand at first, and in Berlin. So we moved to Berlin. Summer was great. Spring was great. Then winter came, and I forgot I can't play outside in winter. It's just freaking cold. So I found a second job. So these were my early 20s, you know, and we lived for 2 years there in Berlin, and then continued traveling. And we did a lot of work away, for example, and work and travel. We were working in hostels, living in Albania for a long time, in Tirana. This was like the first part of our travels in life, which was pretty free. Maybe I had 2,500 euros, and we had Opel Astra, so we didn't have a van or something with CNG gas. So at these times, you paid like maybe 40 cents per liter to drive around. So we traveled pretty economic and just work in Greece on an olive farm, in Kosovo in a hostel, in Bosnia-Herzegovina, in Tirana, in Turkey in a rock climbing camp, in Georgia I was busking again, which went really well. And this is how we financed it. You know, there was not much that we earned, but also not much that we spent. The first was a real budget travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're busking, there's well, I would say a pretty high level of vulnerability there, right? It's like you on the street, and you know, you don't know who's going to walk by, what substance they're going to be influenced by. You know, like crazy stuff happens on the street. Like we all know that, right? Yeah, it can happen anywhere. And when you're making a living on the street in that way, busking, you're going to come across some interesting people, I'm sure. So, I mean, yeah, what did all of that? Yeah, I mean, maybe you could share a couple. It looks like a story is coming to mind the way you're laughing. Yeah, I mean, what did all that teach you?
It teach me a lot, man. It teach me how to talk with people, how to approach people, also how to run a show. And Berlin is rough, man. After 3 a.m., 4 a.m., you better pack your stuff and go. Otherwise, it can get very weird, It can get very weird, especially with when you say like special substances. We had also, for example, pickpockets, because when they saw us around, they saw people were dancing, having a good time. Sometimes we had over 100 people in front of us. It was like a mini concert already on the street. But Idris and I had already an eye on the pickpockets. So while you're playing, I don't know, Wonderwall or Wish You Were Here, you still have an eye open that nobody is hurting the people that are in front of you. And I remember we saw one pickpocket took the wallet from a friend of ours from Barcelona. We noticed it, put the guitars on the side, and run behind him, catch him. It was crazy, man. And yeah, it was wild times. This is also why we don't live anymore in Berlin, because I'm enjoying more now I enjoy more to be behind the scenes. This is why I switched to production and making this mobile recording studio to have a different experience, We went through all of this, but after 2 years, it's just, it can be very stressful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But when you're thrown into the fire like that, you can't help but get certain skill sets, right? Like you said, dealing with people, dealing with crowds, or I'm sure, a lot of that is translated into the work you're doing now, because there's a lot of psychology around being a producer.
Oh yeah, definitely. The number one thing is, because I grew up, for example, this might be very helpful if there are other artists in general. When growing up in a punk band, there is this common knowledge, hey, you shouldn't earn, you just make it for pleasure, and make the crowd happy. We made like gigs, 5 bands, $3, and it was great times. I loved it. But when busking, you have to sell yourself, especially when your rent depends on it, especially when you have now a life partner that you have to support. And I just learned to talk better about myself as an artist, and then also as a producer, and value the work that we put in there. So we could see the direct value, because we had to pay rent, but we put in the work. We met every morning. There was no day off, really. We met every morning, go 6 hours through our set. What can we change in this set? Where the people resonated last time, and we should play the song more often, maybe, and really, really think more about the music, how to make it for the crowd. And this helped me as a producer to talk good about the studio. As you mentioned, I had high doubts, our project Hit the Road Music Studio, it just started after a burnout. I just wanted a life change with 30 and said, let's go into the van. I don't want to open a studio here in Poland. There is way much concurrence. There is no community here. People are trying to screw each other up. This was the situation I was in. Like, my love for music and the love for community that I knew from the rehearsal room, from the ways I grew up in the punk rock community, hasn't been echoed anymore. It became a huge concurrence. So I said, dude, I'm turning 30. I don't have time for this kindergarten. There were people stealing credits. There were people jealous that I started working with local bands and so on. So I said, how can I avoid sitting the next 3, 4, 5 years starting a business without being in a dark basement? How can I get some sun? And this is how the idea started, to just travel around and record bands. There was no plan to say like, okay, by this year we're going to do that and da. It was just another thing, follow your heart. It was really the heart was speaking. So this was a new start.
Wow. I do want to get some specific business advice later, because there's we kind of touched on it a little bit now, but we can save that for a little bit later. But on the topic of art meeting commerce, that's always the question, right? With artists, and you're making this for yourself, but then you want to share it, and an artist, whatever. And I'm using that term loosely, right? Like, you don't have to be a musician or a painter to be an artist. Like, I consider everybody's an artist in some way, right? And if you want to make a living on your creativity, there is a point where, I mean, you have to sell, right? You have to sell yourself. You have to sell something. You have to have something to offer to generate income. And that can be difficult for some people. I remember like there was some snappy business saying, I can't remember how it went, but it was along the lines of, you know, what you charge is like a representation of how you value yourself, your self-worth. It's a representation of your self-worth. Like if you're charging, you know, $9 for the thing and somebody else is charging $999, it's the same thing, but they just value themselves more in some way. Now, I don't know if that's totally a direct correlation, but maybe there's some truth to that, you know. Did you have any mindset hurdles you had to jump over to kind of get over the, you know, from the DIY, like do it yourself kind of punk rock roots mentality, which I'm very familiar with, you know, having grown up around, you know, I was like more like rap and punk, and we listened to like Minor Threat and Dead Kennedys and all these bands.
Oh man, I love
but
that.
You know, I was a skateboarder, so we had all that stuff. So like, you know, the whole DIY kind of thing, and we'd go to underground shows, and you know, it was just all underground. And you know, at a certain point, though, you have to kind of switch your mindset, I guess, you know, or you had to, I'm sure. I'm just wondering, was that hard for you? How did you do that? What kind of advice would you share with people listening?
Oh, I loved it. These are some of my favorite conversations, actually, because I later realized traveling the world and making records for free is not the best business idea for you know, and it was a subconscious fear to ask for my value. On one side, of course, you know, I wanted adventure. I saved a little bit of money. We bought this van. I had half like microphones that cost a half price, you know, and we just jump into the water to see what will happen, which brought us to Morocco. And I think the reality check happened with COVID, with the pandemic, because we had to stay in a camping place, and it costed exactly the same rent like in Krakow for our old apartment that we just left. So I had to, and while traveling and recording, it was incredible because we could live with the people that we recorded. For example, we lived for 6 months in the desert and could make really exchange, which was insane for me. Of course, I couldn't buy the latest plugins. I couldn't buy the latest gear, not the most expensive microphone, but we had something, we experienced something that you can't buy, especially now, you know, because Morocco was basically closed and we decided to stay there. But once we had the lockdown, we had to pay rent, and I had to figure out something as soon as possible. So I started to work 16 hours per day, trying to figure out social media, maybe like this, maybe like that. And of course, I had doubts. There are like so many studios out there in Los Angeles, in the States. Some of them offer a mix for $200, $250, some Grammy-nominated guys. I'm like, damn, I have like this old stinky laptop here and some headphones. What am I gonna do to compete, you know? So I got rid of a competition mindset, and instead of focusing on all the bad, this guy is better than I, this guy is better than me, this guy is better and I will never reach this, I just focus on the good, like what are my strengths? And made more of this, you know? So of course at the beginning, once I had clients, I at first had to find a couple of reviews, had to give a lot of extra work when doing a mix, and probably a mix was by 70 euros, 80 euros just for a friend, you know, and it never ended. But I was there and I learned a lot of client handling. This is one thing that I would love to share with you. This was a story that I learned already in Poland, in Krakow, because this is where it started. I just rented a couple of places and built the studio inside, like a temporary studio. And there was one band, Cheap Flights. And I asked them, what I'm talking about is you need to understand with who you work, you know, and if it resonates with you. So I talk with them and just ask, how was the experience in your latest record? We don't like the sound. I'm listening to the record. I'm like, sounds great. I don't even know if I can top that. So dig a little bit deeper. What don't you like about the sound? What happened? Yeah, the guitar sound, we were forced to just use one mic, and I have this 26 guitar pedals. He really had 26. I'm not exaggerating. You know,
That's
and,
like the guitarist in our band. He literally has 26.
Me too. My guitar player was always looking at my drummer. He's like, "Do you need all of this?" He said, "Yes, of course. This is a fuzz pedal. This is a fuzz pedal, but it's a little bit different fuzz. And this is another fuzz." You know,
The pedal board weighs more than my car. I mean,
and so then I talked with the bass player, and she said, we wanted to record the bass separate from the drums, but the producers, they didn't listen to us. They said we have to make it together so it locks in. Still, I don't like the sound. I don't like the feel, and we can't edit it now. So it was a different problem. It wasn't the sound of the record, but the way the producer treated the band. So I said, this is my strength. I have huge human skills. I love to work with people, you know, and I take time, listen to the needs. So for the drama, we started to rent. I just wanted to make an exciting recording. The guitar player, his needs hasn't been fulfilled because for me, definitely he loved his guitar sound. He has 26 pedals he cares about. So I said, we're going to get 2 amps, 2 mics on every amp, split the signal without any loss. And we're going to use 8 mics, some room mics, here's some MS recording, you know, and we go out of your effect pedals, which are your favorite effects, just to have a conversation with them and be part of the band. And then, you know, I did it with everyone. For the drummer, we rented like a tower in an old industrial building, bring up the drums there, use 16 mics, you know, and just having fun during the session to get this pressure out because I love music. And this is also one of the reasons why I started to produce. I had a bad experience when we were 16. We were also busking to finance our first single. So we got like with the age of 16, 350 euros together, went to the studio, and the guy, he just didn't care about us at all.
Yeah, that's sad.
Like, it's sad. So
yeah, especially at that age, because it could have been like the thing that really encouraged you to, you know, like you want to encourage people to do that, right?
Exactly.
Not bring them down.
Them. Definitely. So you know what I'm talking about. You know, from all these experiences, it's very important to be part of the band, to bring this community aspect back to music and the curiosity and the creativity.
That's a great story. I mean, I think what you just shared is great business advice because what you were saying was this band, it wasn't that they weren't satisfied with the end product, but it was that they didn't really enjoy the process with this producer. And perhaps if we're going to boil it down to a word, you know, being empathetic or trying to, you know, kind of put yourself in their shoes and understand. I mean, you could say your customers in this case, you know, this is a band, but anybody listening could say, hey, you know, 2 things you said. I mean, one is like, what are my strengths instead of looking at the competition? How can I like lean into my strengths? And secondly, how can I really make my customers feel like or understand that I actually care, you know, because even if the end product's going to be different, it's like the good feeling that you have throughout it, as long as you deliver something quality, you're in business, baby.
Yeah, man.
So, I mean, that works. I hadn't thought really about, yes, you're coming into these places with a recording studio. And meanwhile, there's all these established studios. And then you just like come in and you're just like, you don't, you know, if you go to a new place, like, it's like, you don't know anybody. You don't, you know, who's this guy with the laptop? Like you said, how do you drum up business? Do you have any advice around that? I mean, maybe that, you know, I'm sure it's unique with what you do, but then maybe there are some overarching lessons there for people.
Definitely. So again, number 1 is focus on your strength. I thought it's super exciting to transform any house into a studio. So bands might connect it with a vacation, for example, you know?
Okay, I see. Yeah, giving them an experience.
Exactly. This is part of the experience while also giving the quality. This is very important. So it's also really important that you master your craft. And whatever somebody sent you, send the best back, send the best song back. This was one of the things. But later, I hired a business coach because I understood that I have no clue what business is, that I have wrong ideas about business. Yeah. Especially with the punk rock mindset. Oh, they're just taking from us.
Yeah, right.
So, and to So I put my last money into an artist coach. Her name is Katarina, Artists Coaching. We just became friends via Instagram during the pandemic, and then I was talking with my life partner. I'm like, what should I do? I just don't know how to move on. It's like a brick wall. And this is another part of being an artist, to understand also the business side. And it can be good because you enhance the life of people, to understand that you are co-creating with the art that you are doing. For example, let's say you're a painter. Maybe you touch somebody's soul with the painting, and you're doing something good by selling it. Plus, you need to respect yourself. You have to pay rent also. Understand the path that you walk. How long haven't you earned with your art just to learn it? How much did you invest it? Like for painters, they would buy paints, they would maybe buy online courses, paper, all of these things. As a producer, you can buy things forever, man. the bill will never end. You can buy always the latest microphone, plugin, DAW, computer breaks, SSD cards, and so on. To be conscious about your own path and value yourself, see where are the blockades. And you can do it with a business coach. You can start with books about the mindset, The Big Leap, for example. There is so much you can do. Just, at the end, it drips down to self-love, to appreciate yourself.
Yeah, the money mindset and all of that stuff is a rabbit hole that's worth going down if you haven't gone down it, and trying to understand how you think about how you value not just self-worth, but around financial stuff and money. And it's something I went through too. I think like not everybody has to go through it. Some people, I feel like they just like, they have this like, bring it on, but it's a lot of it depending on the messaging maybe you got growing up. There's a combination of a lot of things. And I think there's a lot of power around having awareness around what your mindset might be and how you might be able to change it to, this is for everything, not just for business, but you need money for travel. It's like money is kind of baked into everything in our society, for better or worse, maybe they'll get to the point where they're just like giving us a monthly stipend every month. What they call that, universal basic income or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, send it over. I'll take that too. You mentioned being in Morocco for that period of time and having, these limited resources. And this is the case with maybe travel as well. When you're traveling around, you just have your backpack or a small suitcase or whatever. And there's this freedom in limitation in many ways. And I'm just wondering how you feel about that. Like you said, there's all the sexy plugins and the things, and like you must be in situations where you're like, if I just had this one mic, I'd be able to get this sound, but you don't. You're a traveling recording studio, and now you have to kind of work with what you have. I'm sure you rent stuff in different places at times and stuff, but when you're in a situation where you're working with limitations, do you find a freedom in that? Like, how do you kind of approach that?
Yeah, I love that you're saying this, man, because at first I thought it's a curse, but it turned out for the better, because the cheapest mics that I could afford, I could learn how they behave. So I could understand which mics I really need. Where do I position them? Where do I position them in the right place, so the face is correct, and all this technical stuff. There are a couple of podcasts, and I'm also a mentor on a couple of platforms like Produce Like a Pro and ProMix Academy, where I go really into depth of this. But in general, the limitations became my strength. Because if something doesn't work, I worked also in huge studios in LA. Like we've been to Sunset Sounds and East West, where Frank Sinatra recorded and stuff like that. If something doesn't work in these huge studios, a lot of money is spent every hour, people can freak out in these situations. You need to have a cool head. With these limitations, I learned how to do workarounds, how to fix not the optimal mix, how to, all these technical details, all these things I started to really appreciate. Because instead of accumulating stuff to get more and more and more and more and more, I just get exactly what I need, exactly know how to use it, and then use it in the right way, and you almost get the same results, man. It takes more, it can be draining. It's like, oh, if I could, as you said, if I could just have this, if I could just have that. But also, I train my ears through this. You hear the differences later when you have some better mics, It took like maybe 3 years until we had the first sponsors to have different equipment, different plugins, different things. So yeah, use your limitations, embrace them, and see and to make the best out of it. There is nothing that you are missing right now that you can buy. We all have this insight, And if you have the super expensive mic and don't know how to use it, like last time a friend in Sweden, actually, he bought this U47, I think a microphone for 8,000 euros, like a vintage mic. He used it at home. And guess what? When he gets the phone call, the mic gets the phone call too.
Yeah, right. So yeah, like it's sometimes hard to see in the moment of struggle what goods going to come out of these limitations, but in the end, like you said, your personal examples of getting better ears in terms of listening or just learning to work with what you got. So now when you get something fancy, it's easy, right? Because you already struggled with the hard thing. I remember Jack White, from the White Stripes, talking about this. Like he would always use these crappy guitars that barely stayed in tune, and it was just like he's constantly like setting himself up for failure, which is terrifying in my opinion in some ways, but it's like making it harder on yourself. It just I guess there's a certain mentality around that, and you don't have to be that extreme, but I want my guitar to stay in tune personally.
Yeah, man, me too. And then maybe probably the engineer fixed it later with Melodyne or something, Who knows what happened behind the scenes. It's I tried to get better stuff. It's not like and this is sometimes misunderstood. Like, I love great equipment. I love great microphones and the great compressors and going into the studio where Prince recorded. This is, for me, it's magic, man. But yeah, my creativity is not dependent on having all of this. This is the true liberty. If you can create with whatever you have.
Yeah. Now, for long-term travelers, I mean, I think another fascinating part of what you're doing is that through your business, I think this is like definitely for us here on the call, this idea of, okay, I love doing the podcast. I love this conversation. Like I'm having a blast, and it doesn't, of course there's times when I'm doing work and I'm doing emails or, whatever, sponsorship outreach or whatever, and it feels like work. But for the most part, I'm doing what I love and getting to be around what I love and getting to meet interesting people and all of this stuff. And now you've taken that to another level with the traveling, where you go in and you're getting plugged into a community locally, and you're meeting locals, and probably the exact locals you'd want to meet if you weren't running this, in a way, not those exact humans, being around other musicians, being around people who appreciate music. And, it sounds like that would be something that you would enjoy doing as a traveler anyway. But it's baked into your business. So this is like another benefit of the business is like you get to show up and you're working with Moroccan musicians or wherever you are, and you're learning from them and you're exchanging. You have this beautiful community you're building and cultural exchange, even if it's not lasting forever because you're leaving, but you're getting to meet locals through the business that are maybe like-minded, share some of the same values, enjoy some of the same things. And I'm just curious about that. How is that for you, getting to come into a place and to work with local artists and to get plugged in that way as a traveler and get beyond the sort of the just seeing the sights type of thing?
Man, it's magic, and I'm forever grateful for these experiences because, as I said, man, this is something you can't buy. I'm a firm believer that through the music you can learn about the DNA of a culture. You can learn about the roots of a culture, and you skip this touristic part. You are straight with the musicians there, with artists. They show you art galleries. You have we had a very different experience, and we are still. I'm with them on call like every week, maybe with the artists that we work with, or just sending a couple of messages. It's like a family, because I'm still going to Morocco. In total, we spent 2 years there and recorded over 120 songs, which was intense. And we were living together, eating with the families together. Like I said, spending 6 months in the desert and learning so much from it, and it plugs you in right to the people that we could resonate with. That man, it's magical. I'm trying to find the right words. Yeah, it's like family. It's exactly what I was looking for actually as a producer. I didn't know that I would find it there, because there was no place for that. And at the same time, we could also support local artists to give them better material, because these are bands that most of them nobody heard of, and they didn't have the possibility to make incredible records or a good record. It was always with the phone, and just to guide them a little bit and help them to make a living with it. And this lead, for example, we're going to make a music production school now there. Because 2 years after our travels, I still got messages. Hey, dear Mr. Adi, this is so funny, man. Dear Mr. Adi, when do you come? I have a band. I would love to record. And I thought, how can we really make a change for a long term? So I had this idea for 2 years to make a music production school. We are almost at the end with our fundraiser to open it in November, and to give education now. Everything I learned, I will share. I have 2 people now, apprentices, Ahmed and Mustafa. They're going to learn from me when we build the studio. We have a place where we build the studio. I got the equipment from our partner companies in Los Angeles. So all this gear is coming for free. Like, I'm just paying the taxes when crossing the border, setting it up, and bringing more independence. And this goes way beyond the idea of just having a burnout, going into the van and just see what happens, This is the beauty that can happen through travels like this.
So this is a project that's going to be, you're a part of this first music production school in Morocco. We can link up to this. If people, I see you've reached your goal, I think.
We did, man.
So
yesterday.
Congratulations. That's amazing. So this is something that will live in Morocco, and you're kind of support. Is this like a non-profit type of situation, like a giving back thing, or is this a profitable venture? What is this?
This is together with an association. They're called Taflen Art. These are our friends who built the Taman Art Space. So we got one building there, and these are the first steps to build a free of charge recording studio for Moroccan musicians. So they have the equal chances like us to have good quality, and hopefully through the music, because it's the easiest way to get a visa for artists to travel also to Europe and to the US via arts. So this is my way, like my thinking, that like this we could connect the world. When they have good quality, they can send it out to a couple of managers, and the managers might invite them, which happened with a couple of bands that we produced. So it will be free of charge for local musicians. With, I don't know, Westerner, if some other people come. We didn't figure it out yet. I'm just doing stuff and then see on the way how we're going to handle it.
I was going to ask you if you had any, maybe a couple of tracks you could share, and if you could talk about maybe a couple of this, because you've worked in, like I said, pop, rock, jazz, world music fusions, and you've worked with some world-class musicians and some people who've hit the European world music charts. Like, outside of accolades and things like that, maybe you can just talk about a couple pieces of music that you're really proud of, or that you just love for whatever reason, even if it's one or two. And if you can send me the files, we can talk about them, and then I can share them right here after you talk about them, a little clip, if that's okay.
I love that. Yeah, definitely. I think the first clip would be with the band Tasut Animal. Incredible musicians, wonderful people, and they are Amazigh people, also known as Berber. So these are the native North Africans singing in their own language. And this is on our YouTube channel the biggest hit, with now 600,000 views. So when you also see it on the channel, there are subtitles so you can understand the lyrics. And we recorded this song after, we started this project unknown. So we just went to Essaouira, to the city in Morocco, and talking with one of the jewelry shop owners, with Momo. Momo was his name. And he showed me a band on his phone called Dara tribes. He said, listen this. I check out where they are living. He's like, in the desert, close to Zagora. We're like, okay, let's go. It's 800 kilometers. Let's do it. So we just went there. And on the road, we just got like pointers, asking people, hey, do you know the band Dara Tribes? Yeah, just drive more down south.
Take a left at the big hill. They're down there somewhere.
Yeah. So this story will lead also how we met Tasut Animal. So sorry, I made a small departure, but so we were driving towards the desert and got more and more hints until somebody told us they are living in the city of Tagunit. We arrived in Tagunit, which is almost the last city before the Big Sahara starts, the second biggest city before. And at the gas station, there was Abdullah. He looked like a rock star, and he put us gasoline into the car. So we said, hey, come in. We're going to make you a coffee. Let's talk a little bit. And we were exchanging, we have a big festival in Poland, 1 million people coming there. It's for free. What do you have here? He told us about the Taragalt Festival, Nomad Fest. So I used this opportunity and asked him, do you know Dara tribes? And he took his phone, called Hafid. Hafid came over. The full band came, picked us up. We drove out to it was the last house before the desert starts. Put out the guitars, bass amps, cajon, and everything, and had a jam session. The next day, we recorded 2 singles in Kaspar Aitisful. This is like a desert palace. It was incredible because you have to leave the main street. You just drive along the pine farm, and it's like a hotel, but it looks like a palace made of sand. We recorded 2 singles there. Next day, I mixed them. Next day, I made the video. Next day, we released it. This was so easy, so quick. Really great live, man. And this single, I think, is now the 2 singles. One is on 112,000 views. I'm going to send it to you. It's called Wacha. And Wacha is the oasis. It's talking about the dryness of the desert, that the water is missing. So when the water is missing, the palm trees can't grow, and they don't have dates, and they are mainly living from selling dates there. So this is what the song is mainly about. And the second song is called La Clach.
Well, let's let people hear the first song here first. So what's this one called?
Wacha.
Wow. Okay. Give this a little clip of this. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. You want to tell us about the second one?
Exactly. So our project was unknown, but with Dara Tribes, who is a band that already traveled in the US, in Canada, we got more and more known in Morocco. So this was a good shot. So we started to get phone calls. Hey, don't you like to come over to us and record 2 singles? Of course, we got a little bit money for the gasoline, and the band Tasut Animal called us and invited us back to the city of Ouarzazate and Ait Ben Haidou. And there was a Kaspar Ayus, Auberge Ayus it's called. It was an incredible place with a wonderful owner, with Idris. He's one of the most beautiful human beings I know. So calm, peaceful, incredible cook, very joyful, So we started to transform this hotel into a record studio and make 2 singles together with Tasut Animal. And then later, this is the single Amekras. Later we made the music video by driving to the mountains and had the incredible view that you can see also in the video, where 2 lakes are crossing into one. They go into one. like a fork. Very colorful, joyful. And this song, yeah, it talks about the hard farmer's life, but you will hear a lot of joy in this track that is called Amekras the Farmer, that we can play now.
I love the juxtaposition when you have you might have, like you said, a uplifting track that's, but the lyrics it's a sad song in some ways or something, or vice versa. It's interesting. So man, thanks for sharing those tracks and those stories. And we can link up to any of the YouTube videos if you send us the link so people can take a look at those as well. And that'll all be in the show notes here. We talked a bit about the psychology of recording and business and all these things. And what you share here might translate to, and any traveler in terms of being open to meeting people. And really what I see as a big role of a producer, maybe more challenging than the technical role, is creating a space where people can feel comfortable, where they feel like they can be their authentic selves, where they feel like they can speak their mind and not be judged, or they can make mistakes, even more importantly, or do something that's maybe doesn't sound so good, and it's okay. Part of that vibe, I think, that you need to create, it can also translate to, meeting people on the street or whatever. Like if you create a space where people feel comfortable, you're going to have deeper conversations. You're going to be able to connect with people in a different way, on a different level. And I'm just wondering how you do that. Especially like being from another culture, Yeah,
it all starts with a smile. The smile, an authentic smile, can open doors, and it can open trust. This is the foundation when working together respectfully. And this happens when you create from the heart. Because the deeper I am now in the music industry, it's now 7 years, and now every year I'm in LA. And since I'm doing this, I don't see so many people anymore producing from the heart, or recording from the heart, or writing a song from the heart. People try to fit into a box like this, like, oh, when my song would sound like Travis Scott, then I should be in the charts too,
Yeah, like using that as a framework and then making the song around that.
Exactly. Instead of really trusting yourself that you got it, that when you are honest, and this is where it comes also, that there have to be the space that you can be honest and vulnerable, to really go deep. This is also for me the most exciting music to create. And this is what I learned in Morocco. Dude, this is what I learned in Morocco. And I tell you why. We recorded this band, nomad band, a band of nomads, and they allowed us to go with them later into the desert and
like
film.
Real nomads, not digital nomads.
yeah, no laptop, no electricity. we made bread. We made the bread under the fire in the sand. We just put it. The bread is covered with sand. We put the fire on top of it, and they knew exactly how much fire to make until it's ready. Things like that. This have nothing to do with digital nomads. No algorithm can check this out, man.
Totally connected to nature.
Yeah, and one of the guys, the guitar player, he took a bandir. The bandir is the Moroccan frame drum, and just play it. And I still, in my mindset, it's like, oh, you're also a bandir player. And he's shrugging his arms. He's like, I play bandir since I'm a kid. Everybody plays bandir, and everybody plays some guitar, and everybody plays some drums and rhythms. So I understood that there is not this pressure. Like when I'm a guitar player, like along the thing, like I'm a guitar player, so okay, I know scales, I know all the chords, I'm virtuoso, I can shred and stuff like this. On the opposite is when I was in Berlin, for example, visiting my friends, there was a guitar hanging at the wall. I'm like, oh, you play some guitar? And the main reaction was usually, no. I'm not the artist. I'm not the guitar player. Just have a guitar. I just know like 2 or 3 chords, While in Morocco, somebody just takes it and plays these 3 chords and sings to it with no pressure. The music is embodied. It's already part of life. And this brought me back to my initial feeling when I was living in the rehearsal room where I just created, This was eye-opening. This whole project was mind-blowing to really go back to the roots of music, not to really please any label, not to please anybody here or there, but create from your own. And it works, man. Tasut Animal, they are filling every venue is full, man. Check out their Instagram. People go crazy on it. But songs like this in the structure, that would be even probably the song Amekras, you will hear it's repetitive. It's A, B, like verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, small break, faster outro, which switch into 6/8 rhythm from 4/4 into 6/8. Like, if I would show it to somebody in Los Angeles, they would be like, after the second verse or third verse, they're like, another verse? What is this for a song? They don't even get the message. They don't even get the feeling of it, And this was so liberating for me to because it's the biggest video we have actually on the channel.
Wow.
So it resonates with people, even when other people don't understand it. It's a completely different approach to music.
That approach, or what you're describing, sounds just like basically it's pure music without any ego attachment.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Just a couple more. I know I could talk about this stuff forever.
Dude, I could talk with you for 3-4 hours. I really enjoy the questions. You're a great host.
Thank you very much. How do you balance the sort of the I need to pay the bills opportunities, I need to get the clients and all that with, let's call them, well, those could be heart-centered. I think all your work is pretty heart-centered, and I think that's what's beautiful about what you do, because I can tell that you care. That's not, you don't come across that every day. Just because you own a business doesn't mean that you necessarily care in certain ways, and you do. I can feel that. But, the need to pay the bills, pay your travels, all the different logistics of life, balancing that with some of the other projects you want to do or things that might, I'm sure when you're going out to record that band in the desert, like, I don't know if that was a paid thing. It sounds like it was pretty spontaneous. Like, let's just do this, but you're not doing it with the intention of, maybe we'll get some business out of this. It's just kind of like, let's just do this and, kind of follow the flow of life. And then probably this will start, and then you end up getting known in Morocco. And these are the kind of things, like, this is a different kind of way of thinking, I think, that is important when you just, I'm not saying, you should do a bunch of stuff for free, but at the same time, that can lead to stuff, and it cannot, but maybe having not expecting it to lead to anything and just doing it with your heart. That's when it usually leads to stuff, I feel. But you still have to balance these things in real time, right? Like, you still have a payment you have to make at the end of the month and things like that. So how do you balance all that?
Yeah, it at the beginning it was difficult. So to inform the listener also, the reality check is that 2 years, I started every month by 0. Even when I had the business coach to really build up the business, it took patience. Patience and to be persistent, continue creating. But somehow when we really needed cash, I got the phone call. Hey, can you record our live show? Because during the pandemic, there were these online live shows. So there was a foundation, for example, the Institution Française, and they wanted a concert for Ramadan. We were the only studio there. There were 2 studios. There was the studio from the King of Morocco, Studio Hiba, and I could work there for 12 days, which was insane, like top-notch studio. But if somebody didn't want to record in Studio Hiba and have something else, it was us. So people called us, and we made maybe $800 there, which was enough for us for 2 months, because we could eat with people, stay with people. And slowly build the business, show that we are consistent, especially in creative, with art. It seems like people are checking if you're consistent. Oh, is he? Yeah, was a nice idea how he started. Let's check next year if he's still alive. Then, oh, this guy is still alive. Great. Like maybe we can hire him now. And then it helped me to get reviews from all the people. So I never recorded only for free. It has been always an exchange. So we say we make you a record. If you can't pay money, we're going to stay with you, or do something. And we were always welcome. This was incredible. So more and more online festivals helped us definitely to support. And then the social media work that I did, because I committed 1 to 2 hours on social media, and things can happen that you can't imagine. For example, when I released a song from Dara Tribes, I got the phone call from the producer from Aerosmith, from Warren Hewart, the founder of the Produce Like a Pro Academy, who found us on Instagram. I was new to Instagram, but he found it and he called me like, "Did you mix that?" I said, "Yeah." "The mix is incredible." I'm like, "What?" I was sitting, just to understand for all of you, I was working my butt off. It was the first month of lockdown. I was working 16 hours to understand how YouTube works, how Instagram works, trying to stay consistent, sharing stuff, don't know how. One post took me like 1 hour maybe to find the right words and the right hashtags and all this. And I didn't even know to what it's going to lead, because it's different from a day job. A day job, I do 8 hours per day something, but at the end of the month, I get the reward. But here you need to stay conscious to understand what I do now might give a reward in 1 or 2 years, or no reward at all. This can also happen. So better you do it straight from the heart instead of fighting or pushing through it, because and enjoy this process. So things like this, just following step by step, they can lead to things that you would never imagine. I mean, I would never imagine that a travel in a van would bring me now once per year to Los Angeles. I was holding panels at NAMM. Next month, I got hired in a university. I don't even have qualifications to go to a university. And they hired me to give a 5-hour tutorial there, like a course, together with, so we made a full plan about the Morocco journey. Things like this can happen. So just follow, stay patient, see what you can do. And maybe what I would make different now, to focus only on one thing, to not burn out again. Like I was trying everything a little bit YouTube, a little bit Facebook, a little bit Instagram, a little bit this and that, to maybe just focus on one thing, but really well, and to understand where are the people who would be interested in it.
Awesome lessons there. I mean, that mindset shift that you mentioned of just, the potential reward and not even guaranteed in 1 or 2 years. I mean, that's kind of the thinking you have to adopt when you're working for yourself. It's just, you're planting seeds, and maybe some of them grow and some of them don't. And, the other just 3 things I wanted to pull out of there that anybody can take away from this interview. You don't have to be a music producer, any business, any whatever, and any ambitions you have in life, just putting yourself out there like you were doing on Instagram. And, it's not being perfect, but just learning what you can, trying to get the right things and putting yourself out there and getting testimonials. I'd say, like, if you work with people, like at the bare minimum, just let them share their experience and share that with other people. And you build some, momentum with that, and authenticity, and then the consistency. Because, one of the reasons I think this podcast is still around is just because it's still around. I've been doing this for 11 years. It's just like, I guess this guy's not going away at this point, It's just, I'm only here because I'm just I'm a pest, he won't go away. He won't, whatever. But it's just like, but you build trust that way, right? It's like, this person's going to keep showing up for me, or, okay, this guy's back for another year. He's still doing the recording thing. This wasn't just like a one-off kind of, random thing he's doing with his life, and now he's off, doing whatever. It's just like, then you build trust, right? And it just takes time. And that's the hardest part, I think, to get your head around when you're embarking on a new project. It's like, sometimes, I mean, you hear these stories where things just take off immediately for people, but probably more often than not, it just takes time.
It absolutely takes time, and there's a lot of work. And even when it looks like for people, it just took off, Probably there are like 5-6 years that have been unseen or ignored, man. But how was it for you to start the podcast? I mean, did you, for example, this is another thing. Probably did you had support? People said like, yeah, do this podcast, will be amazing, or how was it?
Well, I did have a business mastermind group at the time, and it was my friend Emily. I give her credit because she's like, I've been talking about this podcast, and she's like, I don't want to hear any more about the podcast. Just do it. Like, I don't want to hear more till you do it. And so she gave me the sort of push I needed. And then it was, this was late 2013. I was just the weirdo recording in the bedroom, Nobody was, there wasn't as many. I was into podcasts, and people that were into them, but that was a lot smaller than it is now. There weren't all these celebrity podcasts and all the stuff it is now. And so then you're just making the thing that from my experience, I was just making the thing that I wish I had when I started out with traveling, because I wanted to help other people travel. And if I just knew all of this information, it would empower me in a different way. And so then I wanted to create something that would do that for other people, because, I can, and I love interviews. I love talking to people. I love learning from people. I love having these conversations. I would have these conversations with you, like whether we were recording or not, we'd probably have the same conversation over a cup of coffee, and just a privilege to get to have it and share it. And then hopefully people getting value from it and things like that. So yeah, that's it. Like you, man, it's just come from the heart. It really does. I mean, we call this passion mashing here on the show, right? You're like combining all of your passions and putting them into one thing, travel and music and, meeting musicians and all of the stuff that we're talking about here. And, you could be listening, and it's up to you and like the life you want, the lifestyle you want, right? Like you can have a business where you're online and let's say you're a CPA and you're doing taxes for people back in your home country, and you can do that. And then you can get your community fix from meeting with other, let's say, digital nomads or whatever. Or you can, like in your case, have it built in where there's a lot of ways to do it. It's just what you want. I'm going through this right now, man. I'm like, I want to do more music, but I don't really know what to do. I love to be around it, but I'm not a great musician and I don't know how to produce. I mean, you probably need to be a great musician to be a producer, right?
No, you don't, man. Especially in these times, it's all made for you. You can make music with your phone.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, especially these times, you have all the access to everything that you need, and it's also affordable, and it's fun to learn it. Yeah. Today I just made another beat, and sometimes it takes just 30 minutes, and this is the same
30
thing.
minutes for you.
but exactly, like 4 or 5 years ago when I learned all this stuff, it took me 3 days. I was like, why is this not working? But it's still a process, like to like everything. Like everything, it's just a process to learn it. But I love what you mentioned, because individuality is the key. We're all individuals. This is why I say we all have it already inside, and everybody will walk a different path. And this is the beauty, when we can embrace our individuality and live the life that we desire, go the steps. It might happen, and at least we will have more happy people on this planet, which is my ultimate goal.
I love that. How has the getting exposed to all of the different types of music around the world impacted your songwriting, your personal songwriting?
Oh, massively.
Making
Massively. I mean, I was also a skater. We just talked about it. So I was playing basketball, skateboarding, and doing this punk rock thing. So I was always around rap music, hip hop, but also punk, and especially from the States. The stuff came there, and it just keeps things fresh. This is again it's like a rabbit hole. Music is like a rabbit hole. How it merged now with the world music. For example, I made lately a singer-songwriter song, just on my own, using all the African instruments that I'm learning at the moment. Yesterday I had, and he might be a great guest, Dave Kobrensky. He was living in Guinea for 10 years. All the time he was there, and he has some incredible stories, great books also. So sometimes I use the African flute and put it over some beats, just merging it. It's my friend use it cross-pollination. So you borrow from other genres and mix it. It's the same what Timbaland did, for example, with Magoo, the song Indian Flute. And then put electronic elements on it. So this opens another world of unlimited creativity. This is the beauty. And, different scales, different colors, different spices, different tunings, like this Fula flute. It's an equidistant scale that I didn't know before. It has nothing to do with do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. It's every note is 3/4 away from each other. And this is like an African tuning system in West Africa. So again, something learned here, Or djembe. I have 2 djembes here waiting. And this djembe playing helps me again with beat making to understand rhythms better. Because I knew nothing. Like rhythmically, this might be a good story. Rhythmically, when I was a kid, I'm a bit bigger. I'm like 1.86 meters. So my coordination wasn't very very good. And everybody said, "Oh, your rhythmic feel is a disaster." So I took it over my whole year. Like I tried to play drums, and immediately in my head came, "Oh, you're rhythmically, you suck," And I stopped and made some breaks. So last year I said, "Let's fix that." What I'm interested in, African music, West African music. Always wanted to know how polyrhythms work or polymeters. So I got a djembe, signed up for a 7-day course, playing 12 hours per day. And I thought it might take 3 years until I get it. But it took 3 days at the end for something that I postponed almost 25 years. You know what
My
I mean?
version of that is learning the music production software. Well, not 25 years because it didn't exist then, but what I mean.
Yeah.
Keep putting it off because of the struggle. You see, you're perceiving the struggle before it even happens. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can use I don't know if you have a MacBook, but you can get started with Logic. It has all the sounds there, It's so cool. I have Logic now for 2 years, but didn't use it really. And just in the last 2 weeks, I'm like, there are all the sounds that I like, all the Pharrell Williams sounds. Everything he's doing on Logic with stock sounds. There's not even anything more that I have to buy. And I can send you a couple of tutorials. Maybe this can help you to get started.
Cool. I would love that, man. I mean, I love this conversation. And of course, we're going to link up to everything. hittheroadmusicstudio.com is the domain, correct?
Yeah.
And you guys are on Instagram at Hit the Road Music, and we'll link up to everything we mentioned. So if you need some help with your music remotely, or maybe even in a town near you, because they travel.
I travel, yeah. Tomorrow I fly to Germany for 2 weeks of production.
Amazing.
Yeah,
so
very exciting.
I'm so glad we're connected, Adrian. And I just appreciate your time. Thanks for taking the time to share your wisdom here today. Much appreciated, man.
I really enjoyed this podcast, and keep it up. Your podcast is incredible. It's so natural, and I can feel the heart there. Keep it up, man.
Thank you. We all need those words of encouragement.
Do.
I appreciate that, man. Do you want to leave us with I don't know, like, is there like a quote you're living by right now, or a little like motto, or any lyric, anything that jumps to mind you want to leave us with?
For lyric, I have something incredible. I'm a little bit bad in lyrics, so let me quickly Google it. And this is from the song with Aden Kule Gold and Pharrell Williams, from the song Falling Up. Never followed the blueprint. I just wrote my own. Then it goes, my belief in God. Me, I won't sell my soul. It's my season. Even if I lose, I be leading. Steady falling up. I stay falling up. So it's a really good energy for me here, in this track. I love to hear that. It's just, make your own blueprint, man.
Love it. Great way to finish. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this podcast.
There you have it. Thank you to Adrian for coming on the show, sharing his wisdom, building out this mobile music studio, and sharing his best lessons from the experience, and of course getting to talk travel with somebody who's been out on the road for so long. What a joy. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope this served as some inspiration, or perhaps a reminder that creative passion mashing is possible. And that doesn't mean it's easy. One of the things I pulled out of this interview that you heard me talk about at the top that I was going to share here is the ultimate reason to head off into the unknown, to take a risk, to take a chance, to perhaps combine your passions of travel and other things into a business or a lifestyle, if that's something you're thinking about, whatever that means to you right now. Maybe you're already doing that, but you have we always have other projects or directions or things we're considering. And so for me, getting to record these shows and go on these little mini rants with you, as I've said often throughout my time recording this show, it serves as a reminder for me too. This is the thing that these things keep me going, keep me motivated, because it can be scary to go off into the unknown as I consider different projects now personally. I need to be reminded of this as well, which is why I'm bringing it up, which is why it was such a joy to re-listen to this interview before I was able to bring it to you. And one of the things that Adrian said is that idea that anything can happen. You don't know what's going to happen. He never expected that he would end up going back to Los Angeles multiple times for his work or starting some of the projects he has along the way. All of those things were completely hidden, completely unexpected. I can read the quote. He said, this can lead to things you never would imagine, basically. And so that is what I wanted to close this out with. That idea that even though the thing's scary and you don't know what's going to happen, that's often the thing that can prevent us, because we tend to, our minds, maybe not us, maybe not the core of ourself, but our minds like to play tricks on us, like to try to keep us safe, and so begin feeding us some things sometimes about why we shouldn't do something, because we can imagine all of the bad things that could happen associated with that thing we're considering. That's what your mind will often do, trying to protect you, trying to serve you, doing the best it can. But we have to remind ourselves through our core selves who we really are, that these considerations can also lead to things that you never would imagine. Great things, incredible things for you and for your life, personally, professionally, again, whatever that means to you. So I needed to hear that, and I needed to share it with you, because maybe there are some people out there that needed to hear that as well. Speaking of sharing, before we dip out, I want to leave you with a quote. Of course, I'm going to pull one out of the quote drawer, but I do want to give a shout out to somebody in this community who dropped me an email and give them some props. This was from Lydia, who said, "Thanks for the podcast." She said, "Hello from Des Moines, Iowa. I've been listening on and off a few years to Zero to Travel. I'm re-listening to my favorite episodes of Transition to Travel with Jordan and Tyler, and remembered how you like it when listeners write in about their travel journeys. I started listening during the commute for my sort of horrible fresh out of college job in 2021. It opened my eyes to a variety of travel lifestyles, and eventually I gave myself permission not to be satisfied with the standard template of work and home life. Life is too short for that nonsense. I had no budget and a standard 9-to-5 job, so I started learning about car camping and using my weekends and PTO to get as much practice solo traveling as possible. Over time, I got a better job, started saving, found travel-based communities like Hospitality Exchange, collected better equipment, and gained confidence in myself. I also made a promise that next time I changed jobs, I would leave time to take myself on a wild road trip. A few weeks ago, I got laid off. It's not the best thing that could have happened, but because I put the work in beforehand and have an amazing supportive boyfriend, I have the financial stability, support, and confidence to hit the road while I figure out what my next move is. I plan on starting with Wisconsin and Pictured Rocks in the UP. We'll see what happens from there. Thanks for making some great educational, inspirational content with all the friends and adventures that have happened. It's very possible that my life would look entirely different without that little spark that started with Zero to Travel. Okay, I just got some chills reading that, I must admit. And I wrote Lydia back and just said, these types of emails, they mean so much to me. I have no idea how much it means to hear your story, Lydia, and stories from others in the community. It's really the thing that has kept the podcast going for so long, 100%. I'm so happy for your upcoming trip. And for anybody that's been thinking about dropping a line or just saying hi, please do so anytime. I have the voicemail box and all the show notes. You can drop me an email, jason@zerototravel.com. I truly love to hear from listeners, and this is a community-powered show. So let's keep it rolling. Get in touch. Say hi if you got some time, and feel free to check in. Okay, I will pull a quote from the good old quote drawer here in my office desk. This one coming from Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "Nobody can hurt me without my permission." Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love to you and yours. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by ZeroToTravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.